The waitress paid for the food of a beggar and her son and was fired by the manager. But 30 minutes later the millionaire arrived, and what he did left everyone speechless. In the heart of a bustling city, Anna, a young waitress in her early 30s, navigated her daily routine with quiet determination. Slim and with expressive dark eyes, she moved swiftly between the tables at a quaint family-owned restaurant, known more for its hearty meals than luxury. Anna's uniform, an ironed black and white outfit with a little apron, was as much a part of her day as her habitual smile, which she wore even when exhaustion tugged at her muscles. From the early morning hours until late afternoon, Anna was on her feet. She set up the tables, checked on the kitchen staff, and ensured everything was spotless before the first customers trickled in. With a natural kindness, she made a point to remember regulars' preferences, bringing them their usual drinks without asking and asking after their kids or grandkids. The restaurant wasn't just a place of work for her. It was a rhythm she had learned to love, a space where her diligence felt valued. Her responsibilities filled every minute. She balanced orders with a mental precision, dodging between tables with trays of steaming dishes, and patiently addressing complaints, even those that pricked at her composure. Despite the demands, Anna often shared jokes with the cooks, whose laughter echoed from the kitchen, or gave a knowing smile to a colleague as they hurried past her, equally swamped by the day's tasks. To the customers, Anna was simply part of the restaurant experience, a steady, warm presence in their daily lives. Yet behind her dedication, Anna lived a modest life. Every tip was set aside for groceries or bills, every paycheck stretched carefully to cover the essentials. Though she dreamed of a time when she might not have to struggle, for now, her contentment lay in knowing she could provide, even if it meant balancing on a tightrope of patience and frugality. She bore the weight of her responsibilities with grace, fueled by a simple, intrinsic kindness that most of the restaurant's patrons took as part of the scenery. It was mid-morning when a woman hesitantly entered the restaurant. Her clothing was worn, layers of faded fabric clinging to her thin frame, her face shadowed by exhaustion and worry. At her side was a young girl, probably around 8 years old, with large, curious eyes that darted around the room. Her small hands clutched the hem of her mother's sweater, and the hint of a smile softened her face as the warm scent of freshly baked bread and coffee drifted over from the kitchen. Anna noticed them the moment they entered. The mother's nervous glances around the room and the way she kept shifting her daughter behind her hinted at a discomfort that Anna recognized immediately. She could see how the little girl's eyes followed each dish being carried to the tables, her hunger so apparent it made Anna's heart ache. With a gentle smile, Anna approached them, sensing their hesitation. "Good morning," she said softly, keeping her voice light and welcoming. "Would you like to sit down? It's a little chilly outside, isn't it?" The mother hesitated, glancing down at her daughter, who was still looking longingly at the plates around them. Yes please," the mother replied finally, her voice low and uncertain, as though she weren't sure she belonged there. Anna led them to a quiet corner, one of the booths by the window, giving them a chance to sit and get comfortable. She noticed the mother's hands, rough and cracked from the cold, clasped tightly together on the table as she sat across from her daughter. The little girl, sensing her mother's unease, stayed silent, though her eyes sparkled with excitement as she looked up at the laminated menu in front of her. The vibrant pictures of breakfast platters, sandwiches, and pastries seemed almost to lift her spirit, if only for a moment. Taking a step back, Anna kept an eye on them, noticing how the mother whispered to her daughter, likely explaining that they couldn't order much. They hadn't even glanced up to wave her over yet, but she knew they might need a little time. When she finally approached, Anna heard the mother's quiet words. "Maybe we can share something, honey. How about just some soup and bread?" Her voice was barely above a whisper, filled with the quiet resignation of someone accustomed to making difficult choices. Anna's heart tugged in her chest as she listened. She didn't know their story or what circumstances had brought them here, but she recognized their need. With that in mind, Anna turned toward the register, feeling a stirring resolve to do something. Anything to make a difference, however small it might be. Anna hesitated for a moment by the register, glancing over her shoulder to where the mother and daughter sat, huddled together over the menu. She knew she didn't make much as a waitress, and every penny counted toward her own bills and family needs. Yet, watching the little girl press her hands eagerly to her stomach, clearly hungry, tugged at something deep inside her. Without a second thought, Anna walked over to the register and quietly reached into her purse. She took out a crumpled bill, the money she'd been planning to save for her own lunch that day. It wasn't much, but it was enough to cover a small meal. She approached the kitchen window and waved down the cook, Sam, a kind-hearted man with a soft spot for Anna and her hard-working ways. "Sam," she whispered, glancing around to make sure no one was watching, "could you prepare a soup and a sandwich, maybe with a bit of extra bread? For that mother and her daughter over there." She nodded toward the corner booth where the pair sat. Sam raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. "You got it, Anna. On the house?" "No," Anna replied, placing her money on the counter. "Me. Just make sure they don't know." She offered him a grateful smile, and he nodded, sensing the sincerity in her eyes. Anna watched as Sam prepared the meal, the aroma of fresh bread and warm soup filling the room. A few moments later, she carefully carried the tray over to the booth and set it down in front of the mother and daughter. The mother looked up in shock, her eyes wide with both gratitude and embarrassment. "We didn't," she began, but Anna interrupted gently. "Please, it's on the house. You both looked like you could use something warm to eat," she said, flashing a reassuring smile. The little girl looked up at her with an expression of pure joy, her small fingers already reaching for the bread. Anna stepped away, feeling a quiet sense of satisfaction as she watched them start to eat. She didn't need a thank you or anything in return. Just knowing they had a small respite from their worries was enough. As Anna returned to the counter, she noticed a few of her colleagues watching her with raised eyebrows. Among them was Lisa, another waitress, who leaned in, her lips curled into a skeptical smile. "So, Anna," Lisa began, crossing her arms, "did you actually just pay for their food? Out of your own pocket?" Anna felt a slight flush rise to her cheeks but nodded. They seemed like they needed it. Lisa raised her eyebrows even higher, a smirk playing on her lips. "You know they're just going to come back tomorrow, right? These types always do. I mean, they're practically taking advantage of you." Another coworker, Mike, a younger server with a bit of a mischievous streak, chimed in. "You're too nice for your own good, Anna. People aren't going to respect you if they think you're a pushover." Anna kept her composure, though their comments stung. "I just thought it was the right thing to do," she said simply, glancing toward the mother and daughter, who were quietly eating with looks of relief and appreciation. "Everyone deserves a little kindness now and then." Lisa rolled her eyes, clearly unimpressed. "Sure, but don't you think it's going to cause problems? If the manager finds out, he might not be thrilled about his waitstaff giving out free meals." "I'd watch my back if I were you." Anna offered a small smile and shrugged, unfazed by Lisa's sharp tone. "Well, if it were your kid sitting there, wouldn't you want someone to help?" she asked, hoping they might see things from a different perspective. For a brief moment, Lisa's expression softened, and she looked down, as if Anna's words had touched something inside her. But just as quickly, the cynical look returned. "Maybe," she muttered, "but it's not my job to make sure everyone in this city eats. And it's not yours either, Anna." The kitchen door swung open and Sam, the cook, popped his head out. He gave Anna a small, approving nod, showing he respected her gesture. She returned it gratefully, feeling that, despite her co-workers' doubts, she'd done the right thing. Turning away from their scrutiny, she went back to her duties, hoping her kindness wouldn't have unexpected consequences, but feeling in her heart that, no matter what, it had been worth it. The lunch rush had just started to settle down when Anna heard her name called over the kitchen intercom. "Anna, Mr. Grant wants to see you in his office," Lisa said with a slight smirk, clearly overhearing the announcement. Anna's heart sank. Mr. Grant was known for his strict management style. He ran the restaurant like a tight ship, every expense accounted for and every rule enforced. Anna wiped her hands nervously on her apron and took a deep breath. She made her way toward the narrow hallway that led to Mr. Grant's small office in the back, her heart beating a little faster with each step. She could already imagine what he was going to say, and a knot of apprehension tightened in her stomach. She reached his door and knocked lightly. "Come in," a gruff voice called from the other side. She pushed the door open to find Mr. Grant sitting behind his desk, his brows furrowed as he looked over some papers. He was a middle-aged man with graying hair and a stern expression that rarely softened, even on a good day. "Have a seat," he said, gesturing to the chair in front of his desk. Anna sat down, trying to keep her hands from trembling as she folded them neatly in her lap. Mr. Grant glanced up at her, his expression hard to read. "I received some information from one of your colleagues that you covered the cost of a meal for a customer earlier. Is that correct?" His voice was calm, but there was an unmistakable edge to it. "Yes, sir," Anna replied, her voice steady but quiet. "I used my own money. I didn't take anything from the register. It was just, I felt they needed it, and they looked like they hadn't eaten in a while." Mr. Grant sighed heavily, rubbing his temples. "Anna, I understand that you were trying to help, but we have rules here for a reason. This isn't a charity, it's a business. When you give something away, it affects our bottom line and sets a precedent that we can't maintain." She tried to explain, but he raised a hand, signaling that he wasn't finished. Anna swallowed hard, bracing herself for what was coming next. Anna took a steadying breath, preparing to respond, but Mr. Grant was already talking, his voice firm and unyielding. "Anna, I appreciate that you have a good heart," he said, though his tone was more patronizing than kind. "But you can't just take it upon yourself to decide who does or doesn't pay. This is a business. When you make decisions like that, it's like you're telling customers that the rules don't apply to them, and that's a problem." Anna looked down, trying to choose her words carefully. "Mr. Grant, I didn't mean to disrespect the rules. I just saw a mother and her daughter who looked like they were really struggling. I thought, maybe just this once I could make a difference." Mr. Grant leaned back in his chair, his face unmoved. "It's not your job to make a difference, Anna. You're here to serve food and follow instructions. If you want to make charitable contributions, do it on your own time, with no impact on the restaurant." Anna felt her cheeks flush. She had always respected Mr. Grant's dedication to the business, but his words felt harsh, as if her kindness had somehow threatened his sense of order. "I understand, sir, but I paid for their meal with my own money. It didn't cost the restaurant anything." "That's not the point," Mr. Grant replied, shaking his head. "What happens if they come back, expecting another free meal? Or if other customers hear about this and start expecting handouts? We'll lose our reputation as a business, and people will start thinking we're a soup kitchen." Anna opened her mouth to protest, but Mr. Grant held up a hand. "Look, Anna, I don't think you're a bad person. But this isn't the first time you've shown a, shall we say, lenient attitude toward certain rules. And now it's a liability." A tense silence filled the room. Anna's heart sank as she realized the conversation was heading in a direction she'd feared but hadn't fully anticipated. She took a breath, feeling a heavy sense of resignation, wondering if her small act of kindness was about to cost her more than she'd anticipated. Mr. Grant's expression remained resolute as he leaned forward, his fingers interlaced on the desk. "Anna, I'm sorry, but I have to think of the restaurant and the message this sends to both the customers and the staff. I can't afford for my employees to act as if they're running a charity on the side." Anna felt a pang of disbelief, though she had seen this outcome creeping closer as their conversation unfolded. "So, you're saying I'm fired?" Mr. Grant sighed, though there was little sympathy in his gaze. "I think it's best if we part ways. You're a good worker, Anna, and I know you mean well, but I need people who can follow the rules, every single time. I have to maintain control here." Anna's heart felt as though it had plummeted to her stomach. She had been with the restaurant for years, giving her all to her work. It wasn't an easy job, but she had made it her own, knowing every regular customer's favorite order and every quirky detail of the kitchen staff's personalities. This place was more than just a job to her. It was a second home. "But Mr. Grant, I need this job. My family depends on it," she said, her voice trembling slightly. It was rare for Anna to let anyone see her vulnerable side, but in that moment, Desperation softened her composure. Mr. Grant's gaze flickered for a second, but he shook his head. "I'm sorry, Anna. I can't make an exception. It would look like favoritism. I'll make sure your final paycheck includes everything you've earned. I hope you understand it's nothing personal." Nothing personal. The words echoed in her mind, feeling as hollow as the now empty space she felt in her heart. She nodded slowly, knowing that her pleading wouldn't change anything. Gathering what little strength she had left, she forced herself to look Mr. Grant in the eye. "Thank you for the opportunity, sir," she said quietly. She stood, feeling a blend of sadness, anger, and something else, an unshakable resolve, as though the kindness she had shown that mother and daughter was still, somehow, worth all of this. Without another word, Anna turned and left his office, her steps heavy as she walked away from the place she had poured so much of her heart into. Anna walked out of Mr. Grant's office in a daze, her mind swirling with a mix of emotions she could barely process. Her dismissal had come so suddenly, so harshly, that she struggled to comprehend how one act of kindness could cost her everything she had worked for. She avoided eye contact with her coworkers, sensing their sideways glances and the uncomfortable silence that settled over the restaurant floor. She walked to the small back room where the employees kept their belongings, her fingers feeling numb as she opened her locker and gathered her things. Her apron, once a symbol of her hard work and dedication, now felt like a weight as she folded it and set it down on the shelf. Each movement felt surreal, as if she were watching herself from afar. With her bag slung over her shoulder, she took one last look around the room. As she turned to leave, she noticed Sam standing by the kitchen doorway, a sad smile on his face. "Nah. I'm sorry," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You didn't deserve this." She forced a smile, appreciating his words more than he knew. "Thanks, Sam," she replied. "But maybe it's for the best." On her way out, she couldn't resist a glance toward the corner booth where she'd served the mother and daughter. They were gone, the table cleared and reset. A part of her felt comforted, imagining that they had left the restaurant with a bit of warmth and relief, if only for a short while. As she stepped outside, the cold air stung her face, the chill only amplifying the sense of emptiness settling over her. She took a deep breath, blinking back the tears that threatened to spill. Her heart ached, but underneath it all was a sense of pride that she couldn't quite shake. She walked down the familiar street, uncertain of what awaited her but resolute in her conviction. She had given that mother and child a small moment of comfort, a gesture of compassion that felt right. And though she didn't know what would come next, she held on to that feeling, hoping that somehow, in some way, it would lead her to something better. As Anna walked home, she felt the weight of her dismissal settle on her shoulders. Each step echoed with uncertainty. Losing her job meant more than losing a paycheck. It meant her family's fragile financial stability had been thrown into jeopardy. Her mind raced, thinking of all the little things that relied on her income: groceries, rent, her son's school supplies. The weight of it pressed down on her, twisting her sense of resolve into a quiet anxiety. When she reached her modest apartment, she paused at the door, taking a deep breath before stepping inside. The familiar warmth of her home greeted her, and she could hear her son, Matteo, chattering in the living room. He was 11, bright-eyed and full of questions, with a kind heart that had always made her proud. The sight of him brought a faint smile to her face, and for a moment, her worries faded, replaced by the love that centered her world. "Mom, you're home early," Matteo exclaimed, rushing over to greet her. He wrapped his arms around her, his hug a balm to her weary spirit. She returned the embrace, holding him close, feeling his boundless energy and love. "Yes, sweetheart. I got home a little early today," she said softly, smoothing his hair back with a gentle hand. Matteo pulled back and looked up at her with his big, curious eyes. "Are you okay, Mom? You look tired." Anna mustered a small smile, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I'm okay, honey. Just a little tired." She knew he could see through her facade, though, and her smile faltered as she considered how to explain the day's events. She looked around the apartment, taking in the familiar details: The simple furniture, the family photos on the wall, the little reminders of the life she'd worked so hard to build. For all her family's struggles, they'd always found a way to make ends meet, to create a home filled with love and support. But now, without her job, the future felt uncertain. For now, she decided to keep the details light, holding on to hope that somehow things would be okay. As evening settled in, Anna gathered the courage to sit down with her family and explain what had happened. Her mother, Isabel, who had moved in with Anna to help care for Matteo, sat beside her, her weathered hands folded in her lap. Despite her age and frailty, Isabel had a fierce spirit and a strength that had seen the family through countless hardships. Anna took a deep breath, looking from her mother to Matteo, whose eyes were wide with concern. I lost my job today, she began, trying to keep her voice steady. She explained briefly about the family she'd helped, and why Mr. Grant had dismissed her. She didn't want to dwell on the disappointment, but she also knew it was important to be honest. Matteo frowned, his young face filled with both sadness and admiration. But Mom, you did something good. You helped someone, he said earnestly, as if trying to understand why kindness could lead to such a punishment. Anna smiled gently at him. I did, sweetheart. And I don't regret that. But sometimes things don't work out the way we hope. And now I'll have to look for a new job. She tried to keep her tone light to reassure them, but her words hung in the air, thick with uncertainty. Isabel reached over, placing a comforting hand on Anna's shoulder. Mija, she said softly, her voice filled with warmth and resilience. What you did was an act of compassion. Don't ever feel ashamed for following your heart. This is just one door closing. Another one will open. Her mother's words offered a small comfort, a reminder of the strength and faith that had always carried them through difficult times. Anna nodded, feeling a swell of gratitude for the support her family offered, no matter the circumstances. Matteo leaned his head on her shoulder, his small hand in hers. You're the best mom and the best waitress, he said confidently, as if the entire world couldn't convince him otherwise. Anna hugged him, her heart both heavy and full. She knew the road ahead would be challenging, but with her family's love and support, she felt a renewed strength. She might have lost her job, but her family remained her foundation, and that was something no one could take away. That night, as the apartment grew quiet, Anna sat alone at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea that had long since gone cold. The day's events played over and over in her mind, each moment sharp with emotion. She didn't regret helping the mother and daughter. Seeing the relief in their eyes, the small, grateful smile of the little girl, that alone had made everything worth it. Yet, the uncertainty gnawed at her. Anna had always been the steady provider, ensuring her family had what they needed, no matter how tight things got. She wasn't sure how they would manage without her income, and the thought of telling her landlord or explaining her situation to potential employers filled her with dread. But amid her worries, Anna found herself remembering the mother's whispered thanks and the way the young girl's eyes had lit up as she ate her soup. Those moments felt like a flicker of warmth in the coldness that surrounded her now. Acts of kindness, she reminded herself, were never wasted, even if they sometimes came at a personal cost. As the hours ticked by, Anna felt a sense of calm settle within her. She thought of the people who had shaped her values. Her mother, who had worked hard all her life to provide for her family. Her father, who had always reminded her to be kind to others, no matter what. Anna knew deep down that following her heart had been the right choice. She reached out for a notepad and began jotting down ideas, small things she might do to start fresh. Maybe she could find work at another restaurant, or perhaps offer her help to a community center. She had always been resourceful, and now was the time to lean on that strength. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of her phone buzzing against the table. Frowning, she picked it up, glancing at the unknown number on the screen. It was well past midnight, an unusual time for anyone to call. A glimmer of curiosity sparked within her, and with a hesitant breath she answered, wondering who might be calling at this late hour, and what unexpected turn her life might take next. "Hello," Anna answered, her voice soft and uncertain. There was a brief pause on the other end before a warm, deep voice replied. "Good evening. Am I speaking with Ana Garcia?" "Yes, this is Anna," she responded, her curiosity piqued. "This is David Martinez." "I apologize for calling so late," he continued, his tone respectful and sincere. "I was a guest at the restaurant today. I only just heard about what happened, and I wanted to reach out to you personally." Anna's mind raced. She vaguely recalled the name. David Martinez was a local businessman who frequently dined at the restaurant, though she had never served him directly. Why would someone like him be calling her? "Oh, hello, Mr. Martinez," she stammered, unsure of what to say. "Yes, I'm no longer working at the restaurant." "Yes, I heard about the situation, and I have to say, Anna, I was deeply moved by what you did for that family today," he said, his voice warm with admiration. "I know it cost you your position, and I can only imagine how hard that must be. But your kindness, it's rare." Anna was silent, caught between gratitude and disbelief. "Thank you, Mr. Martinez. I couldn't watch them go hungry. The little girl. She reminded me of my own son." There was a pause, as if he were taking in her words. "I understand, Anna. And that's why I wanted to call. I don't believe acts of kindness should go unnoticed or unappreciated. I'd like to meet with you if you'd be open to it. Perhaps tomorrow. I have an opportunity one think might interest you." Anna blinked, her mind racing with questions. What could he possibly mean by an opportunity? She hesitated, feeling both hopeful and wary, as if this call might somehow shift the course of her life. "Yes, I'd be willing to meet," she replied finally, a cautious excitement stirring within her. "Wonderful. Let's meet tomorrow morning. I'll send you the details." As she hung up, Anna's heart beat faster, a small spark of hope lighting up her spirit. Whatever tomorrow held, it was a new beginning, a chance she hadn't seen coming. The next morning, Anna dressed in her best clothes, a simple blouse and skirt that she had carefully ironed. She didn't know what to expect from her meeting with Mr. Martinez, but she felt a cautious optimism, a quiet thrill that perhaps, just perhaps, her situation was about to change for the better. She arrived at the cafe where he had asked to meet her, a charming little place on the quieter side of town. She scanned the tables and spotted a well-dressed man sitting by the window, watching the street thoughtfully. His sharp suit and confident posture made him stand out, yet his face wore a warm, friendly expression that put her at ease. As she approached, he looked up and gave a welcoming smile, standing to greet her. "Anna, thank you for coming," he said, extending a hand. "I'm David Martinez." "Thank you for inviting me, Mr. Martinez," she replied, shaking his hand. "I'm still surprised that you wanted to meet." "Please call me David," he said, gesturing for her to take a seat. "I think you may have been more surprised by your dismissal than by this meeting," he added, a hint of humor in his tone. Anna nodded, managing a small laugh, though the memory of losing her job still stung. "Yes, I suppose you're right." David's expression softened as he regarded her. "I want you to know, Anna, that what you did yesterday was remarkable. Many people would have ignored that family or looked away, but you acted with compassion. That kind of integrity and kindness is rare." She felt her cheeks warm, humbled by his praise. "Thank you, but it just felt like the right thing to do. I didn't think anyone would notice." "Well, I noticed," he said firmly. "And I believe people like you are exactly what the world needs more of. Which brings me to why I called you." Anna looked at him, intrigued. David leaned forward, a glimmer of excitement in his eyes as he continued. "I'm expanding a project of mine, and I think you might be the perfect person to help bring it to life. Let me tell you a bit about it." David leaned back, considering his words thoughtfully before he spoke again. "Anna, I come from humble beginnings myself," he began, his voice filled with sincerity. "Growing up, my family didn't have much, but every now and then, someone would lend us a hand. A meal here, a job opportunity there. Those small acts of kindness were what kept us going, and they inspired me to build something that could give back to others." Anna listened closely, her curiosity growing as he continued. "For years, I've been working to develop a network of community kitchens, affordable housing projects, and job training programs. Something I believe in deeply. But running a network like this requires people with genuine empathy and resilience. People like you. Anna's eyes widened, realizing what he was suggesting. Mr. Martinez. Are you saying you want me to work with you on this? Exactly, he replied, nodding with a warm smile. What you did yesterday at the restaurant showed me that you understand the importance of helping others without expecting anything in return. I've read your manager's reports, and it's clear that you've been dedicated and reliable. And now I'm seeing firsthand your compassion. That's the kind of person I want on my team. Anna was taken aback. Just yesterday, she'd been struggling to imagine how she'd get by without her job. Now, here was an offer not only for work but for something she could feel deeply passionate about. A position where her empathy was valued, not reprimanded. I don't know what to say, Anna replied, her voice wavering slightly with emotion. I never thought I'd get a chance like this. But, are you sure? I've never worked on anything like this before. David smiled, reassuring her. You'll learn, Anna. What matters is your heart and your willingness to help others. The rest can be taught. If you're willing, I'd like to give you a chance to be part of something bigger. Something that helps people like the mother and daughter you helped yesterday. Anna felt a rush of gratitude and excitement. This opportunity was unlike anything she could have imagined, and it had come from a simple, selfless act. Anna sat across from David, her heart racing as the weight of his offer began to sink in. She had spent so long working in a simple restaurant job that she hadn't dared to imagine herself doing something as meaningful as what he was describing. Her hands trembled slightly as she took a sip of water, trying to steady herself. David smiled, noticing her excitement and surprise. Anna, I want you to know a bit more about why I'm doing this. You see, I didn't just grow up poor. I spent my childhood in and out of shelters. My mother worked 2 jobs to keep us going, and there were days we relied on strangers' generosity to eat. He paused, his gaze distant as he recalled memories that had clearly left a mark on his heart. Over the years, I built my company from the ground up, he continued, his eyes meeting hers. Now, I'm in a position to give back. My goal is to create a business network that not only provides jobs but also supports local communities, through food security, affordable housing, and training programs. This project isn't about profit. It's about people. Anna listened, feeling both humbled and inspired. She could see the depth of his commitment and the drive that had led him to success. This was a man who hadn't forgotten where he'd come from, and who wanted to use his resources to help others find their way out of hardship. This project means a lot to me, David continued. But I need people like you to help run it. People who understand what it's like to work hard, to make sacrifices for their families, and to still have kindness left to give. I believe that with your experience, empathy, and dedication, you'll be able to make a real difference. Anna's heart swelled as she realized the gravity of his words. She wasn't just being offered a job. She was being invited into a mission, a calling that could change lives. The thought of being part of something so impactful left her speechless, and all she could do was nod, her heart pounding with a mixture of hope, gratitude, and disbelief. David leaned forward, his gaze steady and sincere. Anna, what you did yesterday wasn't just kind, it was courageous. You put someone else's needs before your own, and that kind of integrity is rare. That's why I didn't want to just call. I wanted to meet you, to tell you in person how much your actions resonated with me. Anna felt her cheeks flush, humbled by his words. She had never thought of herself as courageous. For her, helping the mother and daughter was simply the right thing to do. She glanced down, struggling to find words to express the mix of emotions swirling within her. David continued, sensing her quiet gratitude. When I was building my business, there were countless people who could have turned away but chose to help. A landlord who let us stay when we couldn't pay rent, a neighbor who shared their food with us, even teachers who took the time to mentor me. All of those small acts of kindness. They added up. And now that I can give back, I see it as a mission, a way to repay all those who believed in me. He reached into his pocket and handed her a neatly folded card. This is the address of our main office. I'd like you to come by on Monday morning if you're interested. We'll start you with an orientation, and you'll be able to meet the team. From there, we'll figure out which part of the project suits your skills and interests best. Anna took the card with a trembling hand, her eyes misting over as she looked down at it. "Thank you, David," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't even know how to thank you for this chance." David smiled warmly. "The only thanks I need is for you to be yourself and bring your compassion to the work. You're going to be a powerful part of this mission, Anna." For the first time in days, Anna felt a deep sense of purpose and possibility. She nodded, unable to fully express the gratitude welling up inside her. This opportunity was more than just a job. It was a chance to transform her life, her family's future, and the lives of countless others. The following Monday morning, Anna dressed carefully, wanting to make a good impression as she headed to the address David had given her. The office building was impressive, sleek and modern, with large glass windows that let in streams of natural light. Anna's nerves fluttered as she stepped inside, still reeling from the incredible turn her life had taken in just a few days. She was greeted by a friendly receptionist who directed her to a conference room where David was already waiting. He stood up with a smile as she entered, gesturing for her to take a seat. "Good morning, Anna. I'm glad you could make it. Thank you for having me, Mr. Martinez." "David," she corrected herself, recalling his preference. "I'm excited to be here." David nodded, seeming to sense her excitement mixed with nerves. "I can only imagine what a big shift this must be," he said, his voice kind. "But I'm confident this is going to be a perfect fit. You see, Anna, I've been looking for someone exactly like you." Anna tilted her head, intrigued. "Someone like me?" "Yes. This project is about more than just logistics and numbers. It's about people, about understanding their struggles, their strengths, and how to lift them up in a sustainable way. You have something many people in this line of work lack: empathy combined with real-life experience. You know what it's like to work hard, to sacrifice for others, and that makes you the perfect person to help lead this mission." Anna felt a surge of emotion. She had always worked hard, but this was the first time someone had recognized those qualities as assets, as something that made her valuable. "Thank you, David. I never thought. This is all so unexpected." David reached into a folder on the table and slid a paper across to her. "This is an official offer for a position on our outreach team. Your work would involve helping to coordinate efforts for community support, organizing food resources, and connecting families with housing and job training programs. It's a lot of work, but I believe you're more than capable." Anna's hands trembled as she took the paper, her eyes scanning the details. This was everything she had ever dreamed of, an opportunity not only to rebuild her life but to help others do the same. Anna scanned the offer letter, feeling as though she were in a dream. The position outlined responsibilities that resonated deeply with her: organizing food distributions, coordinating with shelters, helping families access training and support. Each line described tasks that aligned with her values and desires, ways to give back and help others, just as she had wanted to do for the mother and daughter in the restaurant. "I don't know what to say," she murmured, her eyes filling with tears. She looked up at David, her voice trembling. "This is more than I could have ever imagined. I thought that, after losing my job, I'd be starting over from scratch. But it feels like a second chance." David nodded, his expression kind and encouraging. "You're not starting from scratch, Anna. You're building on everything you've learned and everything you've already been doing. You showed me the type of person you are when you helped that family, and I'm confident that with the right support, you'll be able to bring that same spirit to this work." Anna took a deep breath, processing the magnitude of this opportunity. It was as though every hardship, every long shift, every small sacrifice had led her here to this moment. The thought filled her with a profound sense of purpose. "I accept," she said, her voice steady, though her heart raced with excitement and gratitude. "I want to help. I want to be part of something that truly makes a difference." David's face lit up with a warm smile. "Welcome to the team, Anna. I know you're going to do great things." He reached out to shake her hand, and as their hands met, Anna felt a surge of confidence. She wasn't just taking a job. She was stepping into a role that would allow her to channel her experiences, her compassion, and her strength into something powerful. As she left the building that day, offer letter in hand, Anna felt like she was walking on air. She wasn't sure what challenges lay ahead, but she knew that she had found her place, a new purpose that would allow her to impact others in ways she had always dreamed of. The weeks that followed marked the beginning of a profound transformation for Anna. Each morning, she arrived at David's office eager to learn and contribute, her heart and mind alive with a renewed sense of purpose. She spent her days meeting with community leaders, planning outreach initiatives, and listening to the stories of those who came through their doors looking for help. For the first time, her job wasn't simply about earning a paycheck, it was about creating real change, one person at a time. Her new role challenged her in ways she hadn't expected. There were long hours, complex logistical issues, and moments when the needs of the community felt overwhelming. But Anna approached every task with resilience and compassion, drawing on her own life experience to relate to the people she worked with. The struggles that had once felt like burdens now gave her insight and strength as she helped others facing similar hardships. One afternoon, while working at a food distribution event, Anna saw a familiar face in the crowd. It was the same woman she had helped at the restaurant, standing with her daughter, now looking healthier and happier. They exchanged smiles, and the woman approached, a look of gratitude in her eyes. "I don't know if you remember me," the woman began, her voice soft with emotion, "but you helped me and my daughter when we were struggling. I'll never forget your kindness." Anna felt a lump in her throat as she nodded, remembering the moment vividly. "Of course I remember," she replied, her heart swelling with gratitude for this unexpected reunion. "How are you both doing?" "We're doing much better now," the woman said with a smile. "Your kindness that day inspired me to believe in people again. It was a turning point for us." Hearing this, Anna felt her heart swell with a deep sense of fulfillment. The kindness she'd shown in a small, ordinary moment had rippled out, creating changes she could never have foreseen. And now, through her new position, she had the chance to continue spreading that kindness on a larger scale, transforming lives just as her own had been transformed. As the months passed, Anna grew more comfortable and confident in her role, feeling a sense of belonging that she had never experienced before. She watched as her projects gained momentum, as families found stable housing, as individuals secured jobs and began rebuilding their lives. Her journey had become part of something larger, a movement of hope and compassion that was transforming lives throughout the community. One day, during a team meeting, David invited her to share her story with the staff. Nervous but honored, Anna stood before her colleagues, many of whom had come to admire her quiet resilience and hard work. She recounted her experience at the restaurant and how that single act of kindness had set her life on a new path. As she spoke, she saw the impact of her words in the faces around her. Her story was a testament to the power of compassion and the profound, often unseen ways that a simple act could change someone's world. "Sometimes," she concluded, her voice steady with conviction, "we think that small kindnesses don't matter. We tell ourselves that we're just one person, that there's only so much we can do. But kindness has a way of coming back to us. When we give without expecting anything in return, we're planting seeds. Seeds that can grow into something bigger than we could have ever imagined." The room was silent for a moment, her words hanging in the air like a shared promise. She looked over at David, who gave her a nod of encouragement, his expression filled with pride. After the meeting, her co-workers approached her with gratitude, each of them inspired by her story. Over time, Anna's journey became a beacon of hope for others in the organization, a reminder that their work was rooted not just in charity but in true compassion. And as she walked home that evening, Anna thought of her family, her friends, and the people she had yet to help. She felt a deep, unwavering faith that, even in the smallest gestures, kindness would always have a way of coming back, creating ripples that could change the world. Anna's life had transformed, but she knew that the real transformation lay in the lives of those she'd touched, and in the countless others she had yet to meet.